welcome to Red River Podcast because I just hit record. But
hmm
so what are you doing? You going to 89 North for what?
My son's the pop punk band. They got their mid-season show. It's a Halloween party. All the other bands are playing. There's a pop punk, indie rock, Led Zeppelin, Frank Zappa.
Oh,
That
Jesus.
must be like the older kids or something. But it's like Frank Zappa versus Parliament, something pretty advanced. So,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, they always do well. It's fun.
What are they covering today?
I think they have more tunes, but I think they're only doing three songs because it's like a shorter mid-season show. So I think there's a Paramore song, the Green Day song that is popular after I know Green Day. I don't know some of the later Green Day,
Yeah.
and I know they just learned a Sum 41. I don't think they're doing that. I don't think they're doing Taking Back Sunday, but that's the gist of the My Chemical Romance. He's a huge fan of. I've never heard that band in my entire life. You probably laugh at me, but like I didn't know anything about. I knew the name and I knew they were quite popular, but he got assigned a song. So he's been like all about that shit. So
Oh,
I've learned a
cool.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, the singer, they're like mutual friends because they're like Jersey guys. So
hmm
some of my friends are really good friends with them, when they were playing to like nobody at Sports Plus.
Yeah.
And then the
I get
singer,
it.
the singer is like he makes stuff like the Umbrella Academy. You know that show?
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
He created that.
yeah. So he like wrote the graphic novel that they turned into that Netflix thing.
Ah,
Yeah,
wow. So
yeah.
he's doing all right.
He's got to be caked up for sure. So he's like, oh, let's just start the band up again. Why not?
Yeah, no, it's cool. I get their popularity. I
Well,
just learned about it. I get it.
uh, yeah, man. Today I said we were gonna do 4 episodes in October, to get our horror itch out of the way. And this is the fourth one, so we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about kills. I just basically went into my brain for the best kills or favorite kills. You know, I could probably, we could come up with another 50. It's just what I did was I'm like mentally, what has stuck with me,
hmm
that way you don't have to like Google. I Googled one or two things just to see who did
I
the
always do
effects.
that to see if I forgot something or whatever. But I did the same thing as you. Like instantly, maybe
Yeah.
15 or 16 popped right into my head. I was like, I'm not ranking these or whatever. These are just kills that I'd like to give a shout out to
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah,
rep
yeah.
and speak its name.
Yeah, hey, speak your name. Another thing that I did yesterday, was it yesterday? Maybe it was Thursday. I don't remember. But I watched Halloween 6. So I've been watching the
Mhm.
Halloweens again just this year because I don't
As
know.
we do.
Yeah, but like a little bit more this year than I have been. Like, through the years I might watch like 1, 2, and 4.
Right.
This year I just went in, even the ones that I hated.
hmm
I watched all of them so far except for 3, H2O, Halloween Kills, and Ends. So I still have 4 left. And I ended up watching. I guess I never watched the full Halloween 6 producers cut, which is
Okay.
like so Daniel Farrens. I'm pretty sure that's who wrote Halloween 6. Was like just a fan, and he was hired to like just. It's like, hey, you remember that French guy that did 5 and threw in a cowboy for no reason? Can you make sense of any of this stuff? So he he was like, all right, whatever. And he writes a script, and I'm pretty sure it was Daniel Farrens. I could look it up, but I don't think it's that
Mhm.
important. I don't think the audience is going to care that much. Um, but so he writes this thing, and they really lean into the Thorn stuff.
Right.
But he comes up with such an interesting like it's almost like the plot of Halloween 6 is like the best plot that they've ever had, but the production value feels like it felt like a 90s direct to video movie, which it
Sure.
wasn't. It had a theatrical. And I guess when I watched the producer's cut, I only watched the stuff that they took out. So it was like verses, like maybe there was like a 30-minute YouTube clip. And I don't think I ever watched the full unrated producer's cut. And
Hmm.
it's so much better than part six because part six is a mess, and it's such a mess. But what I didn't really put two and two together was the score. The Halloween score was almost absent, and it shows you the power of like that whole like every part of that score was in the producer's cut, and then you get the director's cut, which they were like, because the theatrical, which the Weinsteins were like, we hate this, we got to go do X, Y, and Z, and you watch
Hmm.
it, and they ruined that movie. They ruined a good part of that movie, and then the score, the Halloween score, is just like, yo, how do you not have this in a
Right.
lot of these scenes? And when you watch six, that score is like so, man, you're like, okay, this is a Halloween movie now. And what he did is he writes something that was almost a little too cerebral
Hmm.
for what was going on. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was like really this year. What I realized was I hated five a lot, and then I watched it
Right.
again. I'm in on five. I like five now because five, the more sequels that come out that have nothing to do with the
Hmm.
tension that the tension is what makes a Halloween movie. It's not about the kill count. Even like the kills, I don't have a Halloween kill in any of these 10 because they're not memorable to me whatsoever. None of them, because it almost isn't even about
They're
that.
never over the top kind of kills. They're just like steady savagery. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
It's like
that's
the ones that pop out into my mind are the ones that went like above and beyond.
above and beyond. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You're not rewatching Rob Zombies, are you? I noticed you left
I
those out.
did he make Halloween movies? I don't remember. I must have missed that.
Yeah, I'm
uh
actually rewatching them now. So when I get to five, I'm going to see what I think too, rewatching that. And then I want to see that producers. I never saw the producers cut of the another one you
yeah.
mentioned. So when I
So
get there,
yeah, listen, one, two, and four are still the best.
hmm
Um and it's
I'm
just
a
what
fan of the 1-2 H2O timeline.
oh
That's my
yeah.
yeah,
My
that's
only
where I
my my
reside.
my only gripe with H2O, I love first of all, did you just watch it recently?
No, I we're gonna watch part four because he's never seen it. I've been taking him
Good.
through all of them. So
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, H2O had a great open, and then it just kind of like it just took forever.
Mhm.
And another missing part of all this stuff is the guy that they got to play him in H2O looks like 8 feet shorter,
Mhm.
and the mask. So these like little nuanced things like the like a lot of things take you out of it where you're like, oh, this
Sure.
could be cool. And then the later stuff, like David Gordon Green got the mask and the look right, but just the
Yeah.
vibe was like all off, where it was just like, okay, like he's just gonna kill you. Not like there was no, where his movies worked were like the stalking scene in 2018 where the lights that light thing was going and he kept getting closer to that fat
Right.
kid. Um,
Sure.
so, but anyway, yeah, let's talk
Before
some.
we get into our list, that you've done any haunt walks or anything? Get into any of that?
This year we just haven't.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do some. We used to drive around. I mean, we just didn't this year. And
Yeah.
we would look at the houses that had all the cool stuff. Just haven't had the chance. Been busy with
I
a
hear you.
bunch of stuff. But we did go to Dark Rise or whatever, the
Oh,
one
you
in
did?
Copeg.
Okay. How was it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
We
Usually
we ended
usually
up not going, but
usually we go to Bayville, which is great. They
hmm,
do and then the Gateway and the
right.
Belport always on point. So
Cool.
you didn't do any?
Nice. Yeah. No, my son, we went to one last year and he wasn't really feeling it. And I said, we could try it again, or if you don't want to. He's just like, as far as the people like jumping out and whatever, he's just like, yeah, I don't really. I'm like, all right, we don't have to. So we did like a corn maze and fucking
Yeah.
at Schmidt's Farm, which is the best corn maze on Long Island. They do a haunted one at night too, but it's
Where is it?
huge. It's in Melville, near
Yeah.
White Post. Have you ever
Yeah.
heard of that?
We
Yeah,
went
right by there.
we went there last year. It was great. And my friend Nick works there. He's one of the
Okay, yeah,
clowns. He does the haunt stuff later on.
they're fantastic. But other than that, I've just been a lot of horror related podcasts I've been playing, getting like See You in Hell is one I'm listening to a lot with Joe DeRosa and Patrick Wilson, who break down horror and sci-fi films. Pretty funny.
Oh,
Dana Gould, I'm in his 4 hour Halloween special, the Dana Gould Hour. He puts out a great Halloween special every year because he's cool because he's saddled in. He knows the slasher era, but he also came up in that Forrest Ackerman famous monsters kind of fucking era too. So he does it all out. So
and a comedian. I mean, that's what I remember
yeah,
Dana Gould being.
he's a
And
brilliant mind. He wrote for The Simpsons, whatever. You'll see him pop up on some of the specials, where maybe on the Eli Roth ones or this and that,
yeah, yeah,
discussing.
yeah.
Yeah, he
Well,
knows his
because
shit.
he had a show. I think he wrote. God, it was a show. I forgot the name of it, but maybe it was like that Evil Dead knockoff thing. Um,
Oh,
Stan versus Evil or some shit. I feel like
yes, he was involved with that.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, great
Um,
shit. But
let's go. Let's dive
yeah,
in.
let's do it.
So I have 11. So I don't know if you have an extra one. I just
I got
couldn't.
a bunch. I figure, when it's not like they're things we're gonna dissect.
We speak your name.
Edit exactly. So, want me to start?
Yeah.
I don't know. We went with Kills from All movie. I know we were talking about Big Five originally, but I thought there'd be some overlap and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
but I will mention one from one of the Big Five, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the Vein Puppet, Phillips Vein Puppet, uh, where the thing I love about Dream Warriors is how, these kids have these powers and these dreams, but Freddy, you kind of uses their power or weakness against them like he usually does to kill them. And this kid made marionettes. So it always sat with me because veins really bother me. I don't like looking at them. I don't like seeing them bulge. I don't like anything about them. So him pulling the veins out to make a marionette puppet which just kind of sat
Very
ill with
cool.
me.
There was a lot of good stuff in there.
Sure.
The one that I should have put in was like when the girl that was doing like the weight bar and he
Hmm.
like breaks her elbows and then
Oh,
crushes her in a roach motel.
hell yeah. Savage.
So I'm gonna do it, no particular order. But
Hmm.
there's a scene in Kill List, the movie Kill List, which is extra brutal.
Yeah.
It took me forever, because it starts off so slow and it doesn't really. There's nothing. You don't really know what it's about, and you're like, oh, it's just like talking and this, and it's like, why is everyone so into this? And then you realize what it is.
Mhm.
But there's a scene in there where they torture a guy and they smack him around. They beat his legs and everything and hands with hammers, and it looks very real. And it's man, it's like that beating Casino with the bats and
Mm,
stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, for most people, probably haven't seen Kill List. I think it was Ben Wheatley who directed it. He
Yep.
just did the Meg 2, which is interesting. He got his big budget movie finally. So, but
Good time too.
yeah,
Good time. Far
cool.
superior to the first one.
Really?
Yes. I
I
had a
didn't
good
watch it.
time.
Okay.
Now
Uh,
listen, I mean it ain't fucking amazing, but like I like what he did with it.
good. Yeah, so Kill List, the hammer scene is something that if you have no idea what I'm talking about, like I just
Mhm.
described, it's a movie you should watch because
Great.
it's really interesting.
All right. I'm gonna shout out this film has a lot of problems. Not a great film. Hannibal. The scene where Ray Liotta is fed his own brains.
Yep.
Um, there's something about that scene that's so calm because he dosed them with morphine and whatnot. So everyone present in the scene, Julianne Moore, Ray Liotta, and Anthony Hopkins are all very calm. But when he takes his scalp and his skull off, he takes pieces of his brain, he cooks it, and Ray Liotta calmly, oh, he talks about how good this smells, and he feeds it to him,
Yes.
and he's so doped out. Always creeped me the fuck out. Always didn't sit right with me.
That was fucking great. I thought about that and I was gonna add that, but I didn't. Uh, but yeah, I mean, that's like I didn't remember too much else of the movie, but that seeing that in theaters and you get into that part, everyone was like, "Holy shit!" Like,
Yeah, it wasn't a great movie. There, I
yeah,
remember the guy that looked like a burn victim and feeding people to some hogs and shit like that. But overall, it was, after that first film was
that
way
that
disappointing.
that was Gary Oldman. Yeah, in that
Yes.
in that makeup.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I mean, we both have Terrifier, right? So let's just save that for last because I know we have that, right?
Part one and two. I didn't even
Yeah,
know what
part
the
one and two.
about.
Yeah, let's just talk about that at the end. So I'm gonna move that.
Agreed. Sure.
There's a movie called Red, White, and Blue that you and I always talk about,
Yeah.
and it's got one hell of a plot, and you know, I think it describes it in the plot synopsis what it is, or maybe not so much. But anyway, there's a decapitation scene in that movie, um, like towards the end of the film, and it's. I just remember watching it, going like, I've never seen anyone get their head cut off, but I'm almost positive that's what it would be like. It
Yeah.
was, it was just very like, I don't know, maybe whoever directed it watched a lot of decapitation videos, but I'm just like looking at it going like, this is probably what it would be like. And it was very, it was, it was kind of hard to
Yeah.
watch because you're like, whoa, like that's heavy. So Red, White, and Blue is currently streaming up on AMC Plus, which is a great app.
That's one of those films that I always I stumbled upon it, watched it, and when it was over, I felt really bad. Like I felt like just horrible. It like
There,
sucked the life out of me. But I respected it the whole time
yeah.
for what it did, because how many movies do you see that don't make you feel anything? So,
Listen,
but also reluctant to. I know I want to watch it again, but I know before I like press it, I'm like, man, do I do I want to feel like this? Do I want to watch this right now?
I did a
I just
rewatch.
did that with Mother. I just did that with Mother, but I'm gonna do it with this again. So
I did a rewatch with Red, White, and Blue when it got added to AMC Plus, and
yeah,
it's still there. Mother was
sure,
weird because Mother genuinely made me feel anxiety, which I'm not an anxious person. Like
yeah.
I it's just not in my like I'm not anxious about anything. I probably should, but I'm not. And Mother made me feel like I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on right now? Like it
Yeah,
just
it had the same feeling the second time on me. The only thing is, I guess, some of the maybe allegory that I didn't really care to pay attention to the first
yeah,
time, like the metaphors, and like I
sure.
watched it for that. But as far as the anxiousness, it was all like just
Yeah.
like so much the first time. But
All right, yeah.
um,
Next.
all right, I'm gonna go to a back to a simple one. We're gonna go back to the big five here, and I'm gonna shout out um, Friday the 13th Part Two, the wheelchair kill. Um, you know, shout out. We at Red River Podcast believe in inclusiveness,
Yeah.
and I'm glad Friday the 13th Part Two did also. The wheelchair guy gets machete shoved into his face and comically rolls down the stairs like almost like that scene in Mac and Me when the kid is flying and on the wheelchair on the cliff. That's how funny it was. And it just instantly memorable.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, that guy not what that showed me was even guys in wheelchairs can get laid, because that guy
Yeah,
seemed like he was on his way to the promised land before he caught that machete or whatever to the dome.
tragic.
And
Even more tragic.
he was more likable than the other wheelchair guy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, you know,
Thankfully.
I feel like he elevated the game a little.
Mm,
Um, man, there's a movie that's absolute like this is the only movie on my list that I would not recommend to anyone
sure.
because it's just fucking vile. Gutterballs.
Mm,
I remember. So we just had Stack on. for like a couple of episodes. And we were at his house hanging, and I was like, "Oh, Gutterballs is on Amazon Prime," and we start watching it, and I forget like it's like me, him, and his younger brother, and we're watching this movie, and it's just fucking vile. There's like a rape scene in it, and I totally forgot that it lasted for about 50. It really did last for like 15 minutes. And like 8, 9 minutes in, like his brother's like, I don't want to watch this anymore. And then Mike's like, God damn it, now I gotta finish this movie. Like, we were just like we were just sitting there in disgust, and I was just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have recommended this movie. But there's a scene in it where the killer um makes these two people 69, like sexually 69. There's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of dick and pussy involved in this movie. And he suffocates both of them in their private parts, and that's how he kills them. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, never seen that before. Can't say I will ever forget seeing that again. So, I mean, just unbelievable scene, 69 to death. And I think he like also like cuts a dick in half in this movie, and you see it obviously it's a prosthetic dick, and you see like the peel apart, and you're like, wow. So
Yeah,
enter at your own risk for
that's a fun
Gutterballs.
movie.
Yeah.
All right. I am gonna go with you see this pop up on a lot of these kind of lists and stuff, and I just wanted to mention it because it's not a film I would recommend because it's not a good film. But that intro, it's up there with like Dawn of the Dead remake or whatever else. But Ghost Ship, the beginning of Ghost Ship,
Yeah. That's all
you
you could say
know,
about it. Yeah.
super clever. A wire basically cuts through an entire, it's a some old timey dance ballroom kind of thing. A wire cuts through them all. There's a moment where like, what the fuck just happened? And then everybody slowly slide their body parts slide apart and the blood starts slowly coming out and then it's just carnage all over the place. I mean, that's how you start a film. Unfortunately, not much to say after that.
Yeah, they should have spread that across the movie,
Yeah,
back when
but
Juliana Margulies ruled the world.
mhm.
Um, what was I gonna say? You mentioned something, and I was gonna say something. God damn. Yeah. So there's certain movies where, yeah, like that something like that happens, and it's nothing else. Nothing good happens after that.
They probably had that idea like of a death scene and then just tried to build a movie around it and just had ran out of ideas.
It seemed like a Final Destination idea, and they're like, "Oh, yeah,
Totally.
we'll take this."
Yeah.
Um, so moving down my list, once again in no particular order. Um, the scene in Big Trouble in Little China where Thunder, which is like the stronger guy, gets so mad that he explodes, was like as a kid, I just remember watching that and his like foot blowing through his shoe, and it just looks so gross, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, if this guy could just control his anger, I feel like he could have given Jack Burton more of a fight. But he just got so mad after he saw Lopan get fucking get murdered. uh and it was just great. Like, it's just like, you see he turned into like almost like a Cabbage Patch garbage pail kid. And he fucking got so mad that and it was very relatable at that time. So 86, I was 8.
Mhm.
And like, when you're a kid, you just get so mad, like, oh, I'm so angry. And then you see that and you're like, it's almost like a tale of warning. I think later on I got over my anger issues, probably from seeing that movie. So never get too angry. And so yeah, Big Trouble and Little China, which was just so good. Like, I
So
don't know,
fun.
it's just such a fun, like, if there was justice in the world, that would have been the biggest movie ever. Because I remember it had everything you wanted. It had monsters. It had fucking like karate. It had
Mhm.
action. It had hot chicks. It had everything you could ever want. And fucking um John Carpenter was probably like, okay, like this is gonna be my one. This is gonna be my thing.
Right.
It didn't happen with uh no, yeah, that was like the biggest one he did up to that point, right?
Yeah. It was just too odd for everybody to latch on to. You know what I
Maybe.
mean? I loved it, obviously, but as far as like a mainstream success at that time, because it's unusual.
Okay. Listen, I was up here and you brought me back down because after you mentioning that, I'm because we were kids, so I'm wondering who brought
Yeah.
me to that movie. I should ask my uncle. I'm like, hey, remember Big Trouble in Little China? What'd you
Yeah.
think about? He was probably like older, and
Yeah.
he was like, this is probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, and I'm sitting there going like, this is the greatest thing ever. All right,
Yeah.
all right, brought
At
me
the
back
right
down.
age.
Brought me back down.
All right, I'm going to shout out Midsommar, the cliff dive on
Mm.
Midsommar. I love that film. This is especially savage to me because what the face is, what happens to the face slow motion when the first girl falls, that flap of face that falls off when she hits the rock, and then the guy that doesn't make it, we see his broken leg, and to put him out of misery, they make his face into like hamburger meat with up closes. And I think it works extra because of the daylight and brightness of it, the kill happening and perfect. You can visually see it's not a nighttime kill or anything blocked out. It's like boom right there. So I love it.
Yeah, so seeing that in theaters, I love that. I know we're not comparing movies, but his other movie Hereditary was just not something I liked. This one
Mm-hmm.
was more of like, whoa, this is bizarre, and it takes place all during the daytime. And when that scene happened, you're like, because there was no like build up, like you're not expecting it. There's not like this tension build. There's not like the score behind it, and you're like, oh my god, something bad's gonna happen. You're just like, it was so like nonchalant, that you're just
The,
like, okay.
yeah, the absence of a score like really, I think, enhances that kind of shit because then you
Yeah.
can also get a clear audio of them hitting a rock.
Yeah, and also that was a movie where there was so much going on that was so bizarre, but
Hmm.
by the end of the movie you're like, oh yeah, none of this made sense until the end, and you're like, oh, these people are fucking crazy, and you just got duped.
Yeah,
But the whole time you're just
yeah,
like visually like stimulated by everything that's happening, to just be like, yo, how are you not seeing what's going on right now? Like, get the fuck out of here. So
yeah.
that's what I like.
It's his finest moment. Aster's this film, I think.
Did you watch Bo?
Yeah, I liked it,
Yeah.
and not as much as Midsommar.
Okay.
I do need to rewatch it, but I did like it. I like Joaquin in it. I love Parker Posey, and the certain scenes of it were very intense, and I like. But overall, I don't know. I need to see it again, see where I finally come to on it.
All right. Here's a movie we covered, The Mutilator.
Nice.
The
I think I know
Mutilator.
where you're going here.
Well, there was two in particular. I think what really made this movie work for me back then was just like the savagery, because the plot, yeah, the plot was like, you know, non-existent. There was nothing really to anything. It was just like,
Yeah.
hey, I need you to go to this house and close down the stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I've got to go to over here. My dad, like, okay, yeah, whatever. But the scene obviously where Big Ed takes this girl, Big Ed's the killer, and he decides to dispose of her by sticking some sort of like fisherman hook or so. I don't know what it was. It was just
It was.
right. And
Yeah.
he puts it towards like the front of her crotch, and it comes out through like her stomach. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, you could say whatever you want for the movie, but you see that and you're like, whoa, what just happened? And the effect was great. I heard
Sure.
that it was like obviously like like a dummy body, and they stick her body from like the rest of it, and then they filled her whatever lower half with like condoms filled with blood. So when like the
Yeah.
hook, very cool effect. But also another part of that movie was the killer's demise always stuck with me when the girl backed up the car and cut him in half.
Mhm.
Um because it was just just like strings and everything hanging out, and then he was still alive, which I thought was just great. Like those two scenes, those two death scenes in particular, worth the price of admission, especially
Sure.
now if once you're older and you watch a movie that's so absolutely absurd and ridiculous. um yeah, they're like playing hide and seek in the house, like
Yeah.
just no.
It's insane. It's insane. But everything you could want in watching one of those films of that era that's going to make you laugh and give you some little savagery in it, it's a home run.
You're
You
right.
know?
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the music, like the sitcom music it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like the tone change. Like you watched all these like savage murders, and then it turns into like, welcome back. And then everyone has their
Yeah.
like their
It's
moment in the
insane.
scene, like the ending where they put their names up next to their fucking screenshots. Very funny. So, all right.
I'm going to give you an obvious one, but it has to be shouted out here. When you talk about the Friday the 13th franchise, and the Mutilator made me think to go to this one because when you said about plot and this and that, films of this era, like it was basically all it revolved around were how creative are your kills going to be because your story is going to be dog shit. Really, when you break down to it, probably not make sense or just be silly or pointless. So, kill to kill, what are you coming with creatively? And I think the sleeping bag kill, we have to speak its name in part 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah, when he pulls a girl out and zips her up, grabs it, slams it again. And I remember seeing that in the theater, in high school. And me and my friend, we knew we were watching something special, something memorable, a
Yeah.
piece of history. We
Yeah.
knew. We talked about it the next
Yeah.
day a lot. This was the one.
And later on, the beauty of all these like stories that eventually make it out of all these like productions is like they wanted to do Jason versus Carrie. Oh, okay, that
Hmm.
makes sense, but that didn't happen, so they came up with this. And then John Carl Buechler did all the effects, and this was around the time that like the PMRC, like the Tipper Gore
Yeah,
people,
sure.
and they were like, okay, we're cutting out all the violence because the sleeping bag, he did 6 whacks, which that the uncut version, the 6 whacks, that's awesome. Like that's ridiculous. So if you go to YouTube, for anyone who cares, and you go to Friday the 13th Part 7, um, uncut death scenes, they're all really
Hmm.
good. Like they're all like that dude, John Carl Buechler, R.I.P. Um, really did a great job on just like upping all the death. Like, to be honest with you, probably the best death scenes in the whole franchise, that all just got cut out, because he was such a wizard at that stuff. But I mean, like, sleeping bags iconic. Even with that one whack, it's just whatever. But like, yeah, he
Yeah,
gave her 6.
that's
uh
hilarious.
uh there was yeah, I guess I'll just keep going down this list. So Death Proof, car scene.
Mm,
um I
good
love
one.
the first set of like the 4 girls or whatever it was. You're like, okay, this is who, you're just so accustomed to being like, okay, this is what these are the final, one of these girls is the final girls. And then you halfway through the movie, you notice that, stuntman Mike is about to eviscerate this car, and you're like, oh, maybe one of them will survive. And then there's this head-on collision, and man, a car crash is something that could happen every day. So you see
Yeah.
it, and it's like extra brutal. And the way Quentin filmed it was I guess showed every angle, of the crash. So, you see the leg rip off. You see like the chest getting like, you see it 4 times, and then the last one being I forgot the girl's name, but like that tire like fucking rubber face off.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
I don't remember a character's name now, but yeah, that's savage, man.
yeah,
Shout out to the one with Rose McGowan too. That's good. That line he has about
he's like
about
you
when
you
she can be scared.
yeah, he's like, you want to go? He's like, am I making a left or right here? And she's like, oh,
Yeah, that,
so then she's like, oh, that's too bad.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, because it would have been a lot, it's a lot later till you figure it out. Whatever. And then also during this death scene, like that song, I forgot Mitch Green, Mitch Titch, whatever the fuck.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I can't, I forget the name of the song, but that combined with the death scene is so fucking great. And
Yeah, that movie wasn't bad, but like you know what part I don't like? Like I love that whole setup with Stuntman Mike, and I love that kill. I love the Rose McGowan part, and I love this, the one at the end with Zoe on the windshield. That stunt is it's insane. That whole part in between that, where we introduce these next four girls, and they're sitting around the table talking like in the beginning of Reservoir Dogs, and then they go the girl and the cheerleader and they go to look for that car. It just goes on like too much, but like certain parts of that movie, oh, love it.
imagine it going on and it was still, so the original, have you seen the 2 hour version of the movie?
No, I
It's
haven't. I don't think so.
it's for the super fans for sure. Because
Oh
there's
wait, is that the one that was released in the theater with the double? Or
no. So the one with the double, he chopped down to like 70 minutes.
okay,
There's like right now if you watch it, because like later on with the streaming services, they break them up.
mm,
It's not like a double feature anymore. Now it's like Planet Terror and Death Proof.
right.
So you can watch I think it's like an hour and 54 minutes. And I think the original one with the double feature might have been like 75 minutes. And even that felt long
Yeah,
because you're watching a double feature with a whole bunch of trailers in between, and a lot of talking, which I didn't mind. But yeah, I like both versions, but I'm a fan. I could sit there, but yeah, like so the 2 hour version has like Stuntman Mike stalking the first set of girls even more, or the second set. There's just more footage, and it's
okay,
cool. He's like sniffing Rosario Dawson's feet.
of course.
I think Quentin leans into it now for sure. Okay, so you're up.
Uh, Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah,
I'm sure I mean, the scene, the scene.
yeah,
These predator like Native American guys take this dude and strip him naked and take a blunt sharp object and hit him right in the taint and pull his body apart so all of his guts can spill out. Man,
yeah,
something good film. And that scene was just like, whoa, I did not expect it to get that savage in this film. And it did.
yeah. Another movie, slow Western. But boy, that payoff, just like it's a slow ride there, but it's very entertaining because all the characters are great, all the actors are great. And then like
Yeah,
once it crescendos, you're like, wow, that was fucking brutal. Uh
fucking A.
so I have, what do we have? 3 left?
I don't know. I just figure we keep going until we
Oh,
run
okay.
out of time.
All right, cool. So I got Pan's Labyrinth. I remember seeing that in theaters, and there was one scene in particular that was when you take away the monster aspect, the slasher aspect, and it's just like two people fighting, and this guy, this general sees this like I forget exactly the scene or who the other person was, but the general, instead of shooting this person, he decides to take a bottle and he just smashes his face in. At first, like, the nose goes and all this other stuff, but it looked very real. And you're like, oh, I guess if you're going to beat someone to death with this fucking bottle and it doesn't smash. He disfigured him and then just fucking knocked his front of his face into the back of the face, and that was quite the scene to see in a movie theater.
Yeah,
You're like, okay, buddy, that's a good one. So Pan's Labyrinth for me.
great one. Yeah, I just rewatched that recently. Forgot about that. Um, all right. I'm gonna shout out here from Zombie 2. Fulci found the slow eye,
Oh yeah,
gouge
yeah, yeah.
with the splinter. Um, what what I love about some Italian film, I love Fulci's my favorite. I'm not into the Argento shit as much. I like the gore, the ridiculous gore, and the scene just goes so slow. He's building it up like where the zombie grabs her head, and then you see the splintered door, and then you see her head and the door, and the music is just going on, and then they go in closer, like right by the eyeball, and when the impact of the splinter and the eyeball meet, it doesn't go away. It slowly shows the puncture and the goo come out. Like we're going to show you every detail as slow as possible, and it's hilarious. I find it hilarious.
That's a really good pick because that's iconic, but it's also forgotten. I think like the us older people will remember that. But yeah, when
Mm,
you watch it, I mean, that's a fucking, and then it breaks off,
yeah,
and you're like, God damn, you
yeah,
know, God damn, yeah, for sure. That is one strong zombie for sure. You know,
totally.
nothing weak about, they move slow, but if they get you, it's like a fucking linebacker grabbing a hold of you. So I have the Toxic Avenger. The Toxic Avenger. Gross. Like in 1984, I definitely didn't see it in 84. I probably saw it later on, like a couple of
Mhm.
years, not too much after. Certain movies, I describe like, you could watch Friday the 13th and there was violence. Then there was just like evil people doing evil shit. And like the movies were so fucking vile that you're just like, this movie is so gross. Toxic Avenger was definitely one of those where it looked, I guess, kind of like a psycho made the movie, so you have like these group of kids that are awful in the car, and they're giving each other points to see running people over or whatever, and then they
Mhm.
see this little kid on a bicycle, and they're like, oh, hit this kid, and like they fucking run him over, and then he's like, the girls in the back, they're like, oh, he's still alive. And they fucking like backs the fucking car up, and you're watching this, and then he runs over the kid's head, and it splatters,
Mhm.
and like there weren't many movies like that. You had the Scanners thing, but like,
Maniac.
yeah, like I have Maniac on my list.
We'll we'll make this into a head exploding.
Yeah, so like the head
Right here.
explode, it just like you really go for it, and it was like extra vile, I think, as a kid to think of your head just being completely decimated, and
Yeah,
Toxic Avenger really did a good job on that. So yeah,
so funny.
that's my pick.
So funny. And while we're talking about that Maniac, just when that guy jumps on the car, shoots Tom Savini right in the head, and it goes, and it's complete slow motion. Like Savini is like, you're gonna see every detail. I'm so proud of my work. You're gonna see this slowly, and then from every angle, the back of his head and how it explodes. It's just that and Scanners. Those are the three best head explosions.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
forgot about the top Avenger. That's a great one, man.
So yeah, Maniac was same thing. You're
Yeah,
watching this movie that's fucking like just a, a little extra. Like it's just extra.
yeah.
Even in the production value, it's just extra. And there when we had the mom and pop shops, they were like the horror movies that you would normally rent, and then there was ones like off the beaten path where you're
Yeah,
just like, all right, cool, let's
something
try that.
dirty about it.
Something dirty about it. And Maniac, same thing. And I love it was Savini's own head that he exploded, and that was just yeah, and also too, like, when you're thinking of like movies like this, like a lot of times it's like a knife or a machete, like, it's never like a shotgun blast to the head, so that was one of the things. So
The
uh
explosive quality. Well, yeah, we're getting towards the end, so I'm gonna lump a couple things together too. I'm gonna give you a twofer here of from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. One, the classic hammer to the head, Leatherface first kill. You got no music going on. Guy goes into this dark house, which is lit beautifully, which is all natural because it's completely low budget. We see the skulls on the wall, and then this guy comes out and hits him with the mallet. We hear it. We don't hear music. It wasn't a nice clean kill like you would see in movies before. The guy's legs spaz out, and then he hits him again to stop his legs from, and you knew you were in for a ride. And then that loud way when he closes that door and slams it shut, and you're wondering what's going on behind there. I mean, it doesn't get much more powerful than that. Definitely one of my favorite kills in history. And I'm going to double that up with LG's slow in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The guy gets beat by Chop Top several times. His legs are flipping out again. And then he's not even dead yet. They drag his ass all the way back to that lair of theirs. So when Stretch gets there, he's still talking to her. His face is peeled off in different parts. He's still alive. I mean, talk about an agonizing slow death.
yeah, that was extra. That
Yeah,
was extra, because you think of how hard, I think anything with a hammer, like I mentioned in Kill List, you're like,
yeah,
damn, like you could only take so many of those to the head before like you're in a lot of fucking trouble. And watching
sure.
LG, like he, like Chop Top just kept hitting him. And yeah, that scene is top fucking tier horror movie violence. So like
Yeah,
the direction, the acting, everything about it, like that's like
and
stratosphere.
humor.
Yeah.
There's fucking humor in it somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
Incoming mail. He's
Yeah.
still spitting, doing his little spit take while his fucking body's all severed. It's
Income,
insane.
yeah, incoming mail. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will just say real quick, there was a really, like, spiders are gross, right? They're just gross.
Hmm.
Sorry if anyone's a fan of spiders. So they always got to me. So I'm somebody that watches anything spider related, even if it's terrible, from like Big Ass Spider, which is great, or Arachnophobia. But there was parts in The Mist and Arachnophobia that had great death stuff. When the tarantula hitches a ride in Arachnophobia and sucks the blood out of the corpse, and then they open it up and you're just like, holy shit. Then there's a scene in The Mist where they discover these bodies. One of them's alive, and it's just like this black dude that has like these lesions all over his face, and then they start popping and these like spider-like creatures come out of it. Like, that's fucking gross. Super
Yeah.
fucking gross. Just terrible. And then after that I have one more. So what do you have?
Um, well, before we get to Terrify, I'll give you another. I'm gonna
Oh,
lump three in
Terrifier.
here
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, I have, before we get to Terrifier, because I got one more. Yep.
I'm gonna give you the Romero trifecta right here. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
go
yeah.
Night of the Living Dead. When we see that guy, I'm gonna shout out that zombie that's eating that piece of flesh and that bone because you ain't seen that in like something like that in one of those movies yet. At
Yeah.
that point, like I can't imagine what people like were seeing that for the first time must have blown their fucking minds because that was like gore, like or Herschel Gordon Lewis, of course, too. But like, I don't know who beat who with that. But total shout out to that zombie. Then I'm gonna go Dawn of the Dead with that hilarious ass big four-headed dude that walks on. Gets his top chopped by the helicopter. So funny because his forehead is like 5 feet above his His eyebrow line, you know something's gonna happen. And they chop that head right off. So funny. And of course wrap it up with Day of the Dead, Captain Rhodes getting pulled apart, choke on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bub getting his comeuppance from Bub. It's perfect.
So the last episode of Creep Show of season 4 had a nod to George, and it's George Romero in 3D. I forget what it is. And in it, there's a scene with it where a zombie, they give the homage, and he gets his head chopped off by a ceiling fan the same way. So
Awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool. So my last one before we jump into the Terrifier stuff, Hellraiser 2. Always got me when the Dr. Channard took one of his mental patients to the mattress where Julia, was stuck in, I guess. And, sometimes crazy people see maggots and weird shit on them, and mentally, it happened in Martyrs. So the doctor gives this fucking lunatic a scalpel or like a razor or something, and he's just trying to get these maggots off of him, but there's no maggots on him, and he's just slicing his body completely everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, watch that now, it's still really fucking like it hits your stomach, like, because you could do so much damage to yourself with a fucking razor, and he did. And he brought Julia back to life, but that scene was fucking
Savage.
vile for sure.
Yep.
So let's do T1, T2 and wrap.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the first one to come to mind, obviously, the girl hung upside down and he takes her apart with a hacksaw. And number one, that's my standout. I don't know. You want to go your standout of one you were going to mention? Was it that or?
So we put it on in the background, me and Karen, while we were like building something, this thing that we bought for the cats. And I just, it's been a while since I watched the first one. I was like, this movie is so fucking good. It brought me back to the first time I saw it. It was just like, when you want like a fucking, like, sometimes you put on a horror movie that looks like that, low, but like it feels like low budget or, whatever. And it's like, man, this movie's going nowhere. Goddamn Terrifier. Like, just fucking like everything about it. And I went back to the pizzeria and I'm watching him, and he's like so obsessed with the girl, and he gets her like a fucking 25-cent ring. Everything about it, every fucking kill on it was just like, to have a movie where every kill it could make this list is a fucking feat. But
it gave me the feel. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, for me, like, I'll do the guy in the pizzeria, like
Okay.
the guy that was cleaning the toilet. Like, he fucking savagely fucking killed this guy, stabbing his fucking face, like everything about it. And I'm like, I forget just how brutal he did the dude in the pizzeria.
Oh yeah, that's a killer one. But to shout it, just the franchise in general. The first time I saw it, it brought that feeling like what you were saying with when you go to the mom and pop store and the Maniac box, and there was something dangerous about it. That's like the film felt to me. I'm like, oh, okay. So I've seen a lot of glossy horror that I'm like, I know, like in like 10 minutes, I'm like, I know what the fuck is going on here. I'm like, oh, there's something dangerous about this again, and I like the way it feels because that's how I felt as a kid watching these kind of movies, you know. So
Unbelievable. And I think what really helps is that Damien comes from an effects background,
yes.
and the effects over everything for these two movies, because the effects, and David,
And a memorable villain.
yeah, the job that he did, it was just like this perfect storm, where it just didn't even it didn't even matter. Like, you
Great
have,
kills and a memorable villain. That's the 80s pattern of a slasher. We were just saying it makes it work, you know, and entertaining and embraced by fans. And he had it, you
he
know.
had it, yeah, like, just unbelievable. And obviously anything in two, but specifically
So much into
the Cannibal Corpse fucking album cover.
totally.
And
That scene is so funny because I saw it and I've told the story. I went with a friend of mine who likes horror films, but not like a brain damaged person like me, like likes horror films, you know. So when that scene was going on, I remember hearing him saying, Jesus Christ, because it just kept going on and on. Just when I thought it's gonna end, something else happens. Then he goes out of the room and he comes back with bleach and salt to pour
yeah,
on top of her. And then no, and then it's not over yet because now we got to bring her mother in to come see the scene. It's
yeah.
like, holy dude,
Art
come
was
on.
just Art was just really entertaining himself. He was just like, oh my god, this
Yeah,
is so great. Wait till she sees
on
this.
fire.
Mashed
And mashed
potatoes.
potato face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mashed
yeah.
potatoes. Like, I mean, if you told me that he like, freestyled that move, I'd believe you because it just seems so out of nowhere where he just like takes these mashed potatoes and smashes it into her fucking face.
And that
Um,
story you posted the other day about him taking a crack at Friday the 13th, I didn't get to read it, Damien, but goddamn, I would be all about that.
I would. I really would
Yeah.
because why not? Like give him a fucking shot. Let's see what he could do with like a budget and like something, why not?
I'm sure David Gordon Green will beat him to it. So the savior of horror.
And lastly, I do want to mention pretty much every kill in the Saw franchise. I just couldn't
Yeah,
pick one. I saw Saw X, and I fucking loved it. Saw X
I
was
didn't see
so
it yet.
fucking good. Um, there was one kill, one torture in particular, where I was like, "Holy shit,
Mm,
that's fucking good!" Like audition style, you know.
okay. Oh, good
Very,
one. Yeah.
very, very good. So, big
If you're
fan of
going to
that.
shout out the Saw franchise too, I should shout out Final Destination franchise too, another clever ass kills thing. And I got it for me, the intro to part two with the freeway scene. Because I drive on
Campy.
the LIE every day, and I think about sometimes as I pass someone in some horrific accident, I'm like, God, that could be any of us right now.
Anybody? Yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
we're in this metal box hurtling down this road with all a bunch of other people. We're all going like fucking 75 miles an hour. Like anything could happen. And that intro it just always kills me.
The one thing about that franchise, why I didn't pick any of it, is man, it just a lot of the CGI stuff,
I
but
know.
like the inventedness, like the eye exam, the tanning bed. There was a
Yeah.
lot of good stuff that happened. The getting sucked out by the swimming pool.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just impossible. We could do 10 on Saw and Final Destination, 100%.
Yeah, I would
Um,
love to see someone take all the Final Destination movies and redo them with practical effects.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see
I
what
mean,
happens.
yeah, for sure, because that's the one thing for me. But other than that,
That
very
was of the
entertaining.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was in that 2000 or like 2000 was the first one where they're like, okay,
Yeah.
if we're not doing practical and CGI is just kind of like starting, there's just like so and then
When
Jay
you suggested we did do our list from that time period, and I was rewatching some of the stuff, I forgot how prevalent that was. Like, just
oh
like, oh my
yeah.
God,
Well, it
that looks
wasn't,
so bad.
and I think that's where French horror really excelled, where everything from Irreversible, which was not really horror, to
Right.
like all the way up to Martyrs, right? I'm
On
trying to think.
Tears, that was another
Yeah,
good gory one. Yeah.
they had like a good run, and it was just all like super like practical and
Yeah.
pure violence. So all
Cool.
right, cool. Listen,
Yeah.
wrapped it up.
Happy Halloween, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
Watch
You guys,
watch watch the producer's cut.
I'm gonna when I
Uh
get to that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got to rent it unless you could find it. I rented it off of Voodoo for like $3.
Yeah. I'll find it pretty good like that.
Yeah. On what is it? Uncut producer's cut.
The
So
uncut raw.
yeah, it's like an hour and 35 minutes.
Okay.
So
Nice. The non-stepped on version.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't want that shit cut. You don't want that shit stepped on.
Nah, hell no.
They give you that
All
buck
right.
25. All right.
Peace.
Peace.